Almost everyone makes the same mistake when boiling corn, and that's why your corn turns out bland instead of sweet and tender. Today, I'm going to share those simple tips with you. Once you know these tricks, your corn at home will taste just as good, if not better, than the ones you buy at the market. Before we even get to the boiling, let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make with corn. Most folks, as soon as they bring fresh corn home, peel off every single husk and toss it straight into the trash. I used to do the same thing, thinking it made the corn cleaner and easier to cook. But the truth is, that habit is one of the main reasons why homemade boiled corn often tastes flat and watery compared to the sweet, juicy corn you buy at fairs or from street vendors. Stay with me until the end, because I'll share a simple storage trick that keeps your corn tasting fresh for months. It's one of my favorites. Here's the secret. Always keep a thin layer of husk on the corn before boiling. That natural husk acts like a protective wrapper. It helps hold in the corn's natural aroma and moisture, almost like steaming it in its own jacket. When you boil corn completely naked without any husk, the kernels are exposed to too much water. The flavor gets washed out, leaving you with corn that tastes bland and lacks that soft, waxy texture we all love. By keeping just a little husk, you let the corn steam gently inside, which makes it sweeter, plumper, and more fragrant. The difference is so noticeable. Once you try it, you'll never want to throw away all the husks again. Think of it as nature's way of wrapping and preserving the flavor. Now, before putting the corn into the pot, it's also a good idea to trim the tips. Cut off the dried, yellowed parts at the top where the silk grows, because that area is more likely to attract insects. Snip the very bottom too, since it can be tough and take up extra space in your pot. Cutting the corn into shorter sections also makes it easier to wash thoroughly and fit neatly in the pan. And one more little reminder, don't throw away all the silk either. Corn silk is packed with nutrients and has long been used in traditional remedies to make a light tea that helps cool the body during summer. If you cook the silk together with the corn, you're not only keeping the nutrition, but also adding an extra layer of natural sweetness. Once the husks and tips are trimmed, the next important step is washing the corn properly. Many people just give it a quick rinse under the tap, but that doesn't really clean it well. Fresh corn can still carry dust dirt or tiny insects hidden in the husks and silk, so it deserves a little extra care. Here's a simple but very effective method. Place all the prepared corn into a large basin or bowl. Sprinkle in about a spoonful of salt, then add enough clean water to cover the corn. Use your hands to stir the water around until the salt fully dissolves. The salt water works like a natural disinfectant. It helps loosen any dirt stuck on the kernels and gently kills off harmful bacteria. If the corn seems especially dusty, let it soak for a few minutes. The salt will draw the dirt out, making the water cloudy while leaving your corn much cleaner. To make sure the corn is really clean, take one extra step, place a plate or lid over the corn to press it down into the water. This ensures that every part is submerged and gets the benefit of the salt soak. After about 10 minutes, pour out the dirty water, then refill the basin with fresh water and give the corn a final rinse. By now, the corn should look bright fresh and ready to cook. This little washing trick does more than just clean it, also improves flavor. Any leftover residue or dust can dull the natural sweetness of the corn, and no one wants that. Salt water removes those off notes, leaving you with kernels that taste cleaner and more vibrant once cooked. Taking just a few extra minutes to wash your corn this way makes a big difference. It's a small effort for peace of mind, knowing that what you're serving your family is not only delicious, but also safe and wholesome. Now that the corn is clean and ready, let's talk about what really makes the flavor shine. The secret is to add just a little bit of salt and a pinch of baking soda. Why salt? There's an old saying that goes, if you want sweetness, add a touch of salt. And it's true, salt doesn't make the corn salty. Instead, it highlights the natural sugars, making each bite taste sweeter and more flavorful. It also helps the kernels hold onto their moisture, so the corn comes out plump and juicy instead of dry or shriveled. But remember, less is more. Just about a teaspoon for a pot is enough. Too much salt can overpower the flavor and even make the corn tough. Now let's talk about baking soda. This is especially useful if you're cooking waxy corn, the type with a chewier texture. A small spoonful of baking soda in the water creates a slightly alkaline environment. That gentle alkalinity helps soften the kernels, making them tender without losing their shape. There's even a bit of science behind it. Corn naturally contains niacin or vitamin B3, but it's locked in a form that's hard for the body to absorb. In alkaline conditions, like when you add a touch of baking soda, niacin is released into a form that's easier for your digestive system to use. So, not only does your corn taste softer and better, it also becomes a little healthier for you too. Here's another detail that many people overlook when boiling corn: the temperature of the water you start with. If you add corn directly to hot water, the starch inside the kernels reacts too quickly. It begins to set and harden almost instantly, which leaves the corn tough, chewy, and far less flavorful. Even the freshest, softest ears can end up tasting a little stale and dry if you make this mistake. That's why it's always best to begin with cold water. Place your cleaned and prepared corn into the pot, add just enough cold water to cover it, and then turn on the heat. As the temperature rises slowly, the corn has time to gently release its natural sweetness and aroma into the water. The gradual warming process allows the starches to soften instead of harden, and it brings out that fragrant smell of fresh corn that fills your kitchen. It's almost like the corn is cooking itself from the inside out, becoming tender and juicy without losing its natural flavor. Once the water reaches a full boil, reduce the heat to medium and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. That's just the right amount of time for the corn to cook through, while keeping its nutrients and moisture intact. Cooking it too long, on the other hand, can dry out the kernels and strip away some of the vitamins. Once the corn is perfectly cooked, there's one more important step. Take it out of the pot right away. Many people leave the corn sitting in the hot water, thinking it will stay warm and juicy. But in reality, soaking too long causes the corn to lose both its nutrients and its flavor. The sweetness slowly seeps into the water, and instead of staying plump and tender, the kernels can become watery or even bland. I still remember summers when I was a child, sitting on the porch with my family eating corn that my grandmother had just boiled. The smell was sweet, the kernels soft, and somehow it felt like pure happiness in every bite. For years, I tried to recreate that same taste at home, but always fell short until I learned a few little tricks about how to cook it just right. Now, every time I make corn this way, it takes me right back to those warm summer evenings, and it feels like sharing a piece of that memory with my own family. If you've boiled a big batch of corn and can't finish it all at once, don't worry. There's a simple way to keep it fresh for later. The key is to wrap each ear tightly in plastic wrap while it's still warm. Be sure to press out as much air as possible so the corn is completely sealed. This keeps the kernels from drying out, prevents bacteria from getting in, and locks in that sweet, fresh flavor. Once wrapped, you can place the corn in the fridge if you plan to eat it in the next few days, or freeze it to keep it even longer. When you're ready to enjoy it again, simply steam the corn for a few minutes and it will taste almost like it was just cooked. Stored this way, boiled corn can last for months and still keep its natural sweetness and texture. It's a smart, time-saving trick that makes it easy to enjoy corn for breakfast, lunch, or even a quick snack anytime you want. After boiling, many people find it a bit tricky and time-consuming to remove the kernels from the cob. But there's a simple little hack that makes it so much easier. All you need is a spoon. Hold the ear of corn upright on a cutting board or in a large bowl. Then use the handle of the spoon to press down firmly along the rows of kernels. With just a little pressure, the kernels pop right off in neat strips. Once you've loosened a few rows, you can use your hands to quickly separate the rest. This method is fast, safe, and much less messy than cutting with a knife. The kernels come off cleanly and evenly, ready for soups, salads, stir-fries, or even to freeze for later use. One more tip that many people overlook: don't pour out the water after boiling corn. That water has absorbed the natural sweetness of the kernels along with some vitamins and minerals. Instead of wasting it, you can use it in so many helpful ways. Let it cool a little and drink it as a light, naturally sweet tea. It's refreshing, hydrating, and soothing, especially in the summertime. You can also use it as a base for soups or stews, adding a gentle corn flavor that makes the dish even richer. Some people like to cook rice with corn water instead of plain water. It gives the rice a subtle sweetness and a wonderful aroma. Cooking is always more joyful when we share it together. So, tell me, how do you like your corn or eggs? I'd love to read your ideas, and who knows, they might inspire the next video. Before we finish, let me leave you with one last thought. Sometimes it's the smallest changes in our kitchen habits that bring the biggest rewards. Whether it's adding a pinch of salt, starting with cold water, or wrapping leftovers the right way, these little details make everyday meals more nourishing and enjoyable. I hope you'll try these tips in your own home and see the difference. Take good care of yourself, stay healthy, and I look forward to sharing more simple, helpful tricks with you next time.